Welcome back, everyone, to Deadlines and Detours. This one is one of those ones that everyone goes, oh, I can't wait to learn some tips about CVs. So today we've got Dan Atkins, who joins us. He's got a really interesting story, so make sure you do listen to this. Don't just scrub ahead to the tips. But he's got some really interesting story about how he ended up into this. We talked about why most people think a CV gets them a job. It doesn't. It gets them 10 seconds of attention of a recruiter. So if you're job hunting, this one's for you. We cover what recruiters actually look for in a CV, which is fascinating, how IR35 works with contractors if you're in that space, and why relationships always beat AI algorithms. Pick up the phone, talk to a recruiter, pick it down. But seriously, it's a really fascinating conversation. I know everyone's going to scrub in, but Dan's got a fantastic story to tell. So yeah, let's dive in. Welcome, Dan, to the podcast today. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think it's quite nice. We were just talking before we started recording here around how this podcast has sort of changed, how it's gone from originally being just digital transformation, but the more conversations I had with people is very much that digital, we all just live in digital now. Everything's digital. We're just connected all the time. So actually, it's just people in business getting the stories, and with recruitment, with mental health, with just business, with tech and all of those things, it's good to have around, because across all of the conversations that I've had, it's been very much, well, you need this to be in place and you need that to be in place. But I know I've spoken to a few people about you coming on, and I've sort of been saying it, and everyone's like, I can't wait. You're actually talking to a recruitment agent, like, oh, we can get the goss. So I'm going to try and not grill you too much and ask silly questions, but I will try and get a bit of free advice for everyone. But before we get into all of that, let's say a little bit about you, where did you come from, and how did you kind of get into the industry today?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, about me and where I came from, I'll give a high level overview around my sort of background and then how I fell into recruitment. And I say fell because I think majority of us do just fall into recruitment. I think many people go out their way seeking a career in recruitment. And yeah, that definitely wasn't me. I mean, my background is out and out sort of sales. I've done the door-to-door, business-to-business sales. I was then a car salesman. Yeah, the dreaded car salesman.
I mean, I wasn't going to say anything there.
I like to think I was a bit of a different car salesman, not your
Yeah, of
typical.
course.
I definitely don't have the typical car salesman look, but yeah, I was a car salesman then for a good while. Before falling into recruitment, I knew absolutely nothing about the industry. Took a massive risk to join it, and yeah, ultimately worked out to be one of the best things I did.
And I guess you talk about those sort of sales, all of those very much involve people, don't they? They involve those interpersonal skills, whether you're selling something to someone or selling someone to someone, or having those conversations. And then that's that empathy bit where you can only get, I came from sales. That was my initial career, selling mobile phones for O2, great times. And those skills that I learned in those few years, actually dealing with customers and things and having tricky conversations, they do set you up. And I think if you haven't had a customer facing role, I think it is sometimes a lot more difficult to have tricky conversations and those sort of things. So you say you sort of end up, how long is it now that you've been in this space?
Blimey, that's got to be cut to about 10 years now in recruitment.
Wow. Wow.
I believe so, anyway.
And then what made you sort of fall into it? You say you sort of fell into it. What job was it? Was it just a job posting that you saw and you thought, give that a go? Or did someone sort of say, yeah, I think you'd be great in this?
Yeah, someone reached out to me. So I was working for Jaguar Land Rover at the time. I was doing pretty well there. It was cushiony. I had a nice, company car. I didn't need to move. My son at the time was quite young, so he'll be 11 soon. So he was, he was very, very young at the time, and I knew that at some point I'm going to need to move on and get a new role because I was working all weekends, all the bank holidays, and when you're selling a car worth, £100,000, people paying cash for it, not hard, not cash, but paying via debit card, they can sometimes be a little bit demanding. So I'd be delivering cars across the UK and making sure that you're meeting certain,
Yeah.
demands from them, which was fine, but I knew it wasn't sufficient, I suppose. So it was on my mind that at some point I'll need to look. I wasn't in an immediate rush. And then I got contacted by a local agency, funny enough, from LinkedIn, which was strange. So I never
Okay.
used LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
think I probably had like a couple connections on there at the time because I didn't use it in the car sales days. Didn't really know anything about LinkedIn, but yeah, they found me on there, and like I said, I knew nothing about recruitment. They contacted me about a contract recruitment job. I think firstly I turned it down because I said no, I need a permanent job. I can't go into
Yeah.
contract. They're like,
Mm.
no, this is a permanent job. Hire contractors. So I knew absolutely nothing. Ultimately went through it. So a long recruitment process at the time, with some strange steps. I mean, going back then to get into recruitment, you have to do phone tests and all sorts. I had to go sit in the middle of
Really?
a busy sales office and get on the phones and call candidates
Wow.
just so
Okay.
they could see
Okay.
like how do they act on the phone, and are they personable, and uh, so it's a bit daunting. But yeah, so I just fell into it, and yeah, like I said, it was probably the best thing I did. I had a lot of fun when I got
Interesting.
into recruitment.
Yeah, I imagine. God, that's quite wild, isn't it? That's. So they almost sort of, baptism by fire, as it were, to sort of drop you. Talking about baptism of fire, I had a random job once, a bit like that. I was in between. It was just before I moved out to the States, and I needed a bit of a bridging role for a few weeks, and I ended up working for the Christian Book Club,
Oh yeah,
selling books to people over the phone, and that was my only ever experience of that kind of almost call center thing. It was only for a few weeks. It was the most random job ever. I always laugh. I don't know why I ended up doing that, but it was just the job that was free. And in that space with just everyone with their headphones on, just the high intense pressure. I don't think I could do that. That's not something for me. But is that the sort of situation that they put you into? Was it literally a call center and you were cold calling, or was it literally were you allowed to be on your own for that?
no, it was I was sat next to my future colleagues, if you like. There's about 50 of us in a room, all the desks lined up next to each
Yeah.
other, and yeah, just on the phones. And it was, I mean, you go walk into a recruitment agency now, and more often than not, it's a lot of them are quite quiet. A lot of people just stay on like,
Okay.
LinkedIn and messages, automated email streams and stuff like that. But way back
Yeah.
then, that wasn't the case. Everyone was, you were on the phone.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you said like, before you got into this space, you were in those sales. And I don't think people, unless you're maybe it is just certain roles live on LinkedIn and certain roles just don't. I wonder what it is like now. I wonder if you were to go and look at some of your ex-colleagues from sort of the car sales space, whether there's sales to be made on LinkedIn. I don't know if there would
Yeah,
be, but
more then.
do
Yeah, you
you?
see a
Yeah,
lot
do
more.
people
Yeah.
sort of pushing? What I have noticed is people estate agents. There's put in certain houses and stuff, and that's something you didn't see before. I think LinkedIn is a marketplace, isn't it, for professionals now, and it's where you would go and sell your wares. And I guess now, when I certainly look, and we'll go into this bit later once sort of got a bit through your backstory, but I guess I would always go into LinkedIn first. I can't think of it's a bit like Rightmove and stuff. If you're looking for a house, you wouldn't just hit the estate agents, would you? You would go to Rightmove first, see what's on there, and then you might do some more boutique stuff after that. But I guess if you just want to have a cross section, it's a good place to start. Is LinkedIn. So yeah, so you went to there, and then how long were you in that role then?
Well, I mean, that must be about 5 years, something like that.
Okay,
So sort of like throughout the sort of COVID period then, and I left during COVID.
okay, okay, and then you moved to. Is this when you? It's not when you started out where you are now,
No,
but
no.
there
So
must have
I
been
was
a jump between there. Yeah.
yeah, so I joined them as an out and out sort of rookie, junior consultant. That period, then I was one of the contract team leaders. And then I built sort of a team around me. I was then approached to join another organization to head up their contract division, because they had a small division. They've done a little bit of contract stuff, but they were perm recruiters as such. They wanted someone to come in, solely look at the contracts and build that out. So I joined them, did that for a little while. I was there for a good while then before entering the world of consultancy, which I did for about a year, and then moved into actually set up my own.
Okay, okay. And then for anyone who doesn't really know, everyone knows what recruitment is, but what is sort of recruiting and recruiting contractors? What is that? What does that mean? Is it just simply getting someone a job, or is there a bigger process? Is there a bigger sort of thing to peel away from that?
I mean, when we break down recruitment, you look at it sort of, you got your permanent recruitment, which is your, placing someone in a permanent role. The agency will typically then charge a one-off fee, which is based on percentage of their salary. Contract recruitment is more like the ongoing side of things then. So you obviously got your temp agencies and stuff like that, which I don't do. Everything, my main focus is the contract space, which is placing, I don't know, it could be like a program manager to deliver a large program of work over a particular time frame. It could be 6 months, 12 months. They're on a usually quite a healthy day rate, and then we collect a small margin of that and manage all the payroll, the ongoing sort of like aftercare of that, and then there's everything else kind of included in there as well. So there's a lot more to than just placing this individual and kind of leaving it there, because we'll be, this person. I've got contractors out who are, well, they're not my contracts anymore, but from the very first place I worked in, there's still contractors that I placed who are still running in the
Really?
same contract role that I placed them in, and that was, that's a good while ago now. But there's that constant sort of aftercare that you've got with them. It's making sure that all the compliance is done, and they're happy within the role, and all the contracts are up to date, all the timesheets are kind of coming in. You're doing like all your regulations and your IR35 checks and everything like that. So
I was going to touch on IR35 because I'm a contractor, and this came and ruined everyone's fun, and kind of really mixed up the thing. But what makes a job 35 and not? I look and I see different things, and something's in scope, something out scope. Is there what makes something an IR35 job or not IR?
I mean, there is, definite sort of criteria that you need to hit, but frustratingly, one of the biggest things that it comes down to is the client's appetite for risk,
Okay,
which can be quite frustrating because not every client will do a fair determination of
right.
said role, which it's easier for them just to do a blanket approach. Everything's inside IR35. We don't hire limited company contractors. Everyone will work through a umbrella company, essentially, which is
And
is
that's
frustrating.
yeah, and that's just so they can almost farm that out and say, yeah, okay, you guys, you deal with it over here. We've just got our resource then. But then I guess contractors ideally don't want to be in IR35, so then you lose some of the potentially better talent because they're not prepared to take the IR35 roles. Or
Yeah, they can be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit because they're working from a smaller pool of candidates then. Because
yeah,
a lot of contractors, they only want to be working outside IR35, which
yeah,
is completely fair. They got their own
yeah,
limited company. It's how they run their
yeah,
business.
yeah.
So they don't want to go working through an umbrella company at that point, which I completely understand. And then when they do work through an umbrella company, their rates are higher as well. So
Yeah,
then
of course. So
the clients, they got to
yeah,
pay a higher day rate, you know, and
to compensate
effectively,
for the money that comes out from the umbrella company and the additional tax and those sort of
exactly
things.
that,
Yeah,
yeah. Them paying double NI and, all this sort of stuff and higher tax rates. So the hiring company now, they got to pay a higher daily rate to get the same caliber of people, and they are often then fishing out of a smaller pond as well. Now, there is times where a role is inside IR35. There's nothing you can do about it. So it could be a case so that you're doing like maternity cover, and they got other people inside who could do the role, and it is it's a permanent position,
yeah.
and that sort of project based
I
work.
was always told that if it was a role that could be done by an employee and it would be a job, it was inside IR35, and if it was something more specific and project based, it was outside. Is that right, or is that just something someone spouted to me once and I've just taken it verbatim?
No, it's partly
Yeah,
right. It's part of the sort of qualifying criteria.
right,
Is there people inside the organization who can do the role? It's one of the questions that will come up. But then there's various other things as well, like direction and control, and
okay,
can this person, little things, can this person substitute someone into the business? Should they not
right,
be able to work? And is there an actual sort of start and end date of this piece of work, or is it ongoing business as usual? So there's so many things that kind of come into it, and it's almost like a scoring criteria. It's not just
okay.
hard yes and no. The systems I've used will like kind of score that role on if it's inside or outside of IR.
Okay, so there are systems, are there, that you sort of type the job description in and the company, and it almost says yes, or like a application almost, is it?
Almost, yeah. So they're more, it's more, you have to go through like a proper qualifying process with the
Right,
client.
right, okay,
So systems I've used, so we would run through the role with the client, and there's a lot of qualifying questions in there. Uh, some really kind of basic questions around like do they have to have like the same employee land tag, and do they get invited to all like the Christmas parties and stuff like that.
okay,
And these types of
really,
things. And,
okay, interesting, yeah,
do they get the same perks and stuff as an employee? And then some of
yeah,
the other ones are a lot more could be around like substitution. Do they have the right to substitute someone into that role? And then there's other qualifying questions outside of that then as well. Now they're the best systems to use because they give a fair determination of the role, rather than like the SES system, which is a lot more basic. That's the government's own sort of IR35 tool. It's a lot more basic.
okay,
Has been deemed as not fit for purpose in the past as well. But
oh, really, okay, okay. So yeah, so as in with all government incentives, it's never straightforward, and they've made it probably more complicated than it needs to be, and yeah, and they're just a nightmare. Do you ever see? Is that a standard now? This IR35, this was just here for the long term. It's not just a. I didn't know if it was just something run by the government, and then new government comes in and changes these things. This is it now. Is it for the long
who
term? Do you
knows?
think?
Who knows? I mean, there's a
Who
rumor
knows?
of
Yeah.
that every time a new government goes in that they're going to scrap IR35.
It was in some budget. I'm sure I saw a few years ago. Someone they were like, "Oh, we're going to get rid of IR35." It may have even been Liz Truss when she came and did her bit, and then within a week they were getting rid of it, and then the next week they were like, "No, no, we're keeping that." And everyone was like, "Yay!" It's like one of those moments. Yeah, it's a complete minefield. Yeah, sorry, I just sort of diverted there, but it was just something top of my mind. So, okay, so that's a little bit about you and your kind of background and kind of where you got to today. But obviously now, you're running and owner of DATTalent. Tell me a bit about what's different with you guys, what you're doing, and why you sort of took the jump to do it yourself.
Why I took the jump to do it myself is quite straightforward, in all honesty. So the consultancy I was working with, great consultancy, they're doing some really good things at the moment. They were focusing on a few main areas, being like product implementation and project delivery. And then they were looking actually like doing the sort of talent side alongside that as well. They went through a few changes internally, went down a sort of a different path, and they decided, no, we're just going to focus on the product implementation side of things and the project delivery, and less so on the actual sort of recruitment and partnership side, which is completely fair enough. So I was made redundant from that. I then had a few offers to go join some other organizations, some great companies are doing really good things, to go in and set up contract divisions for them. And I was kind of in that space of like, well, if I'm going to do it for you, I might as well have a go and do it for myself. I've done it long enough.
Absolutely.
I think I've got the network to do it and back myself. I think every 360 recruiter out there has thought about it and considered it at some point. So when the opportunity was there, I thought, you know what, it's now or never. Let's go for it. Yeah, and just try and make something of my own.
Because I guess a recruiter, like your skill set, your network is it's you, right? You build your identity based on you anyway. So people want to come and talk to you. I know we've talked many times over the years and stuff. And I pick up the phone to you. I don't pick up the phone to your company and hope to have a random chat. It would always be you. So I guess, yeah, like building the brand of who you are. And then have you sort of tried to do things differently with the new sort of setup, or have you seen trends or different things you don't want to do or do want to do differently with the new company?
Yes and no in answer to that. But I've been quite lucky throughout my career that because I've done quite well, I've always been left to do things how I do them anyway, which is quite nice.
Yeah,
But now I've got no one to actually kind of report into, which is good. So I can run things exactly how I want. For me, I've always been very heavy on the relationship side of things and people buy from people, and pushing people first, I suppose. And now I can just kind of focus on that and do things how I want and run it as completely open and transparent as I like, which is quite nice because I do squirm sometimes when I see some of the astronomical fees that some agencies can charge out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It just doesn't sit right on me. I'd rather be a sort of fair, transparent, sort of honest.
yeah. You're running a business, but you want to run a fair and decent business and charge a fair rate.
Exactly that.
Yeah. And I think, the reason that you and I have always kept in contact, because on the other side of the recruitment side, um, it could be very transactional and it could be very much, let's have a quick chat about a role. Oh, that didn't work out, never hear from you again. But one of the things that I've always noted about you is, every so often you pick up the phone, what's going on, what's singing. I guess that's good for building relationships for you, but it's also nice to feel that actually you're a person and you do care about people that you've worked with or you've placed and build a bit of a friendship up there. So when the phone comes in from you do want to pick up and you do want to have a chat, and maybe there's work you can be given from this, or maybe there's roles coming in. But when you got those sort of faceless recruiters that just simply want that transactional, that never really sat right with me, and I get sort of quite grumpy about it. I think if you've gone through the time to go through a process and then you don't hear from anyone again, then no. So we talk about that sort of car salesman stuff. It does feel very much like that. So the fact that you've always had that human touch and you've gone in doing it yourself is cool and it's good. And I'm sure everyone else says the same thing to you, probably. Well, they're not going to say nasty things to you. You're not going to tell me if they do.
That's not what they say behind my back, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And have you had any sort of surprises since launching? People reach out to you and different things. What's the sort of feedback and reception been?
It's been really, really positive. Since launching. The surprise would probably actually come from the actual recruitment industry as a whole. The support there from what you could deem as competitors now has been great.
Yeah, of course.
People actually just reaching out saying, "Let's go grab a coffee. If you need any sort of advice, sort of you're setting up and now you run on your own, let us know." And so that's been really nice. That even though they are a competitor, that actually they've been there, they know the struggles, and they all want to kind of chip in and help. Then my actual network has been great. It's still a challenging market out there. It is still tough, but yeah, my own network, where they can help, they are helping. They're trying to open up doors for me in certain organizations, and it's not always as easy as said as done, sort of thing. But yeah, it's been really positive. But I suppose that goes back to actually, as you said, with a lot of the people that I've worked with, and obviously we've known each other for years and years now, that you do build a bit of a friendship more than like a transactional sort of
Definitely.
process with the candidates. So I've known these people for years now. Now we just meet up sometimes and just go for a beer.
It's almost like it's almost like if you're nice to people, nice things happen. Who knew, right? That would actually be
That's
the
strange
method.
that.
And you're saying like, I imagine there's two ways you can see when someone sets up on their own. You can either go, God, look, who's this guy? Never going to speak to him. Or the right thing to do is go, we'll probably help each other out, because there'll be roles that you're not suited to people to fill, and there'll be roles that other people aren't suited. And if you've got a good relationship, then you can pass different opportunities between you and hopefully, scratch each other's back and it all evens out, because everyone's in the thing, everyone's trying to do the same thing. So I'm glad that you haven't heard lots of people sort of you know be negative. So it's positive all the way. Any sort of challenges in setting up your own business is I guess getting your name out there, picking the name. Where did DATTalent come from? That's just an acronym of your name, is it?
It's it's a bit of a look, I mean, I toyed with names for ages. Took me
Yeah, I
ages
bet.
to choose a name. I was actually using like AI tools to try, build a
Love
name and
it.
let it go and all
Love it.
that.
What did we make? How long till
Utilizing
we said
AI.
AI? We said AI. About 30 minutes. Yeah, great.
So that was they were really good actually. When we talk about like
Honestly.
AI tools, I mean that was brilliant to like spin up some different sort of logos and stuff like that.
Mm, yeah.
But the name actually came from my old employer. So I was speaking to them, and I was you know they were asking me around, what name are you going for? 'Cause I still keep in touch with them, I'm still really close to them. And then he actually said, why don't you go for DATTalent? He said, because then it's a play on your name and the digital and tech space, which you're recruiting into. And I was like, oh yeah, that's just easy, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, it
There you
works. So I
go.
was like, yeah, that's just fine. And at that point,
Sometimes you
I was
just
like,
need
oh,
that, yeah. So, and then that was it. You're like, right, get on, let's get this registered.
yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do that side of things. Then I can actually focus on recruitment.
I think I know the answer to this because we've sort of talked around it. But what sort of people do you like working with the most? Is there certain characters that you really enjoy working with, or anything like that?
For me, it's just organizations that value partnership, more than anything. It'd be easy for me to say are the ones who, hire the most and pay the biggest rates, but it's not the case. Anyone who actually values a recruitment partnership and sees that you're there to support and help them as an organization, not just make a quick buck.
Quick buck, yeah.
That's me. That's the same for, you know, candidates and clients. Yeah. So one that turns more into sort of like a long-term recruitment partnership, friendship that you can kind of, support each other on. Yeah.
And
Yes.
put
Exactly.
people into good companies, I guess, knowing that, if you've placed me somewhere, that you actually that where you're placing them is a good company, because that's the other thing as well, isn't it? You've got to you don't want to just be putting people into you know companies that aren't a nice place to work and stuff. It's not just about finding a role for someone. It's also then making sure that that good, talented person's going into a role that they like as well. Because there's job satisfaction and things like that. I'm wanting to
Yeah.
come back to you.
I've walked away from business before that, you just can't gel with. They might value your recruitment partnership, but
Yeah,
actually then you look at them as an organization, you think, right, why are you losing staff time and
yeah.
time again? The culture fit's not right there and just doesn't become
That's a big
worthwhile.
thing to do, to turn work away. That's a hard decision sometimes, especially sort of do it. But it's good. You're as good as your sort of the people that you work with and the companies you're attached to, aren't you? And if you're seen as someone who'll just place someone anywhere, then that's not you, is it? That's not your MO, and doesn't do it.
Exactly.
Good. So that's really nice. That's really interesting. Sort of just a bit of a whistle stop of your career and a few questions online. But I know everyone is here for the tips and everyone's here for some facts and some different things. So I have got some questions I want to ask you, and offer some sort of free advice. As a recruiter, what do you what do you look for in a CV? I hand you my CV. What's the first few things that you're actually looking for in there?
So there's a few things. I want to see some little things as well. Does the CV match your LinkedIn profile? Because so often, I'm not against tailoring your CV at all, but then you can tailor it too much to a role that actually doesn't fit your LinkedIn. So I make sure, do they marry up? If your CV says you're a business analyst and then your LinkedIn profile says you're a project manager, well, hold on a second, something's not right here. And so I do make sure there's symmetry between what you've been doing, do the dates line up as well. And then for me, it's a lot on sort of clarity and the deliverables in what you've done. Because if you're a project manager, I want to see, okay, what have you actually delivered? How big was the program, the project? Did you manage concurrent projects or was it just the one? What was the budget that was in there? Give me more than I was a project manager and the basics around what a project manager does, because I know that, the hiring manager knows what a project manager does. What I need to know is what value did you actually add into that team and what differences did you make? So I want to see that coming through. There is the usual kind of stuff then as well, which we want to see, your qualifications, on your CV, if you've got anything sort of, special that sort of stands out and stuff like that. But that would be the sort of main ones for me. So less generic, more
more
personal.
more focused. And that's interesting that you said about, yeah. So uh, I I've seen a load of CVs myself, and the standards I ran a project. I used some standard methodology. Well, of course you did, yeah. But what? So do you want to see things like statistics, like actual deliverables that ran this, it was valued at this, and it was delivered on time, and saw sort of an impact? Are those sort of impacts are good? Are those sort of things useful?
And if I can see, right, what was the reason? So, because I do a lot of work with contractors, I want to see, right, why have you gone into that? What was the problem that we were looking to solve? Your time then within that project, actually, what were you doing? Not as the basics, how big was that team that you were looking after? What was the challenges? What did you actually successfully delivered? If you can provide some actual sort of stats around that, then did you deliver it on time? Was it delayed? Was it delivered early? What was the sort of, the budget responsibility? What was then the outcome for the business as well? Did you save them X amount of money over that sort of time period?
Yeah.
Obviously, something a bit more concrete around that, so you can actually kind of talk around it.
This is gold. It's gold. I've got loads more. What would Are there certain things a candidate can do to stand out? Because there's loads of really good, let's just say project managers at the moment. There's loads of really good project managers. How does someone stand out in a pool of really good project managers? Probably not dissimilar to what you just said then. Well, how did you
Yeah,
get
not
your
too
CV
dissimilar, but
seen? Yeah, yeah.
so actually on their CV, how do they stand out? I
Hmm.
think so. Going off what I just said, obviously, take that into consideration, but also keeping it simple. We don't need generic buzzwords all over the place. It's fine. Obviously you're going to put them in there, but if you're going to say you're, I don't know, a strategic thinker or something, show me how. Make yourself sort of stand out a little bit. And then if you're going to apply for a role, don't over-tailor your CV, but actually take some time to maybe, again, because I work with a lot of contractors, they've often got so much experience because if they're delivering a contract which is, over a 10-year
Hmm.
period,
Hmm.
that's a lot of projects which that person might have delivered. So there's going to be a lot of experience that not necessarily is always on their CV, forefront that they're shouting about. But actually, the project they're going for, that experience might be very, very relevant. So let's just bring that out a little bit,
Okay.
so it's seen by the hiring manager or the recruiter.
Yeah, so I'm guessing, yeah. So if you look at your last role, you probably did 100 things. You probably only put 10 on your CV. So just maybe have a think about what are they actually asking for in this job, and if you have got matching things, make sure you actually put those 10 in rather than the 10 generic ones that you're using it for every day. Is that the sort of thing you're saying?
Yeah, exactly that. If you've been working with a company and you've been implementing core banking platforms and that's been part of the role, but maybe now you're applying for a role that out and out you're going to be working as doing an implementation on the core banking. Okay, let's bring out what you did on the core banking side a little bit more. Let's not say that that's all you did, but let's just bring out a little bit more. What was the platform that you're implementing? How big was that sort of project and your responsibilities within that sort of space? Rather than just having it as a bullet point as something you did, let's just kind of highlight that a little bit to get the attention of the hiring manager and the recruiter a little bit more. That actually, yes, look, I do have experience in this space, and here it is. Doesn't need to be War and Peace. Just make sure that it's relevant. If you're going
Got
into
you.
that sort of space. And then on that as well, if you're going to apply for a role, I think it's worth saying that don't be put off on LinkedIn at the moment. I mean, it can be a little bit
What do you
soul
mean
destroying,
when
I
you say
think.
don't be put off?
But you see like a role on LinkedIn getting advertised, and it was advertised yesterday. Now today it's got 300 applicants. Or someone just putting a post up, and the amount of comments and likes and stuff it's got. You'd be surprised if you're relevant for that role. Apply for it, and ideally try and get that recruiter on the phone, because you'd be surprised how many applicants to those roles aren't relevant, in the sense of not relevant for the role, but actually can't even get the role anyway because they haven't got the correct right to work statuses.
Do you get a lot of not spam, but people just clicking apply with any old junk?
All
I
the
guess
time.
maybe when you see like 300 applicants on there, maybe 150 of those are just, people that work in a hairdresser and stuff applying for yeah,
Oh yeah, you do get that as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah, you do
yeah.
get some people, who've been working in I don't know, hospitality, which nothing against that. But then if they're applying for
No,
an £800 program manager role, you gotta think, come on.
yeah, come on, have
Yeah.
a think. What should people stop doing? What's the thing that people always do and you wish you could scream from the and say, let's stop doing that on your CV?
I think it's the overkill side of things again. I hate it when a CV is too long. I don't mind, if you've got experience, put it on there, but I don't need to see a 20-page CV. Your hiring manager doesn't need to see a 20-page CV. We don't need to see all that. So make it relevant for what you're kind of going for. It's got to get the attention. Make sure it's formatted correctly. I hate when the wrong language is used. So if something's formatted in I don't know, like American English opposed to British
Yeah.
English, and you're thinking, come on, it's sloppy. Like, especially if there's going to be a lot like documenting in your current roles and stuff like that. So make sure it's
Spelling
formatted.
mistakes, things like that, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it's simple little things that just
Yeah.
check. I got no issues with people using AI to help format their CV because it helps, but don't get AI to write your CV. Because you've got to keep that personal
Yeah.
sort of touch. So
Yeah.
if you're gonna do that, you can get AI then to sort of tweak it slightly, to make it look better, help with some of the formatting, maybe help with some of the little bits of wording.
It's good for that formatting, isn't it? And we will dig into that. I don't want to jump to AI, but it will. It's good to say, give me a standard, and then take that standard and put your own personal touch into that, isn't it? Okay, format one. Before I go on that one, when you said not long, what is there a perfect length? Not perfect length, but is one page or 10 pages or somewhere in the middle? What do you as a recruiter want to see?
There was that whole sort of thing, keep it sort of 2 pages. I think personally 2 pages is too short. So if I can keep it somewhere around 4, I'm quite happy with. 2 pages is fine if you've been like a permanent employee, you've been in the same role for sort of,
Yeah, and you haven't got
15
the
years, but if you are, a seasoned contractor or someone who's, done multiple sort of gigs or whatever it might be, if you can't fit all that within sort of 2 pages, but at the same time, we don't need to fit that over a dozen pages, so
and
it's
you've got
kind
to
of,
read them. And I
yeah,
guess that can be a bit of a turn off as well. If you've got 300 CVs come in, then you don't want to read 300 times. I guess, do you have software that can scan CVs, or do you have to look at every single one?
there is
Or can you only
software
look
that
at,
will there is software that will scan CVs. Various kind of CRM systems. I don't use them personally, but it's like when the CV will go through, it'll pull out these sort of buzzwords and make sure it kind of matches. It's a little bit. I'm not a big fan of it, but a recruiter will typically read a CV within a few seconds. So they're not going to read every single page of your CV unless it gets to that point where this person is meeting certain criteria, and then they'll sort of dive deeper into that CV. But if we got, you know, 300 applicants, you're not going to read every single CV because that's just for one job as well. When you got all the other jobs that you're recruiting for, it doesn't happen.
and we talk about formatting. Do you look at a CV that's been laid out somewhat professionally, or just a word one that's, almost my first? Do you care about that?
Yes and no. As long as it looks professional, some people, and I don't know, someone might watch this as a professional CV writer. That's not me, and they would tell you something completely different. I'm not overly worried as long as it looks professional. It's got all the information there. It's easy to read. I'm not worried if everything's not in the exact same order on every single CV. As long as that information is there and I've got it, I'm happy. Some CV writers might tell you that you've got to do it in this exact order to stand
Yeah,
out. But you've got to
but
have your
you're the one
qualifications
receiving
at your
them.
top, and yeah, it's
You're the one
I think
receiving them, and if yeah,
I think it's a bit of a personal thing. Some people want them in a certain way, and yeah, as long as the information's there, they're tidy, everything's easy to read, it's formatted correctly in the sense of I've not got random tables all over the place and different fonts, and yeah.
you want to feel like this person at least, because I spec in this space, right? You're going to be creating reports. So if you can't create your own CV to look relatively nice, then there might be a worry on some of the content you're actually going to put out into a business and things like that. Because you've got to look professional, haven't you? A personal one, I always do. I always stick a little picture of myself on a CV. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Get rid of a picture?
Different views on this.
Yeah.
Quite a European thing, pictures. So in Europe, there's a lot of, everyone puts a picture up on
That's
their,
where
their
I took
CV.
took it from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite European. And you see it a lot more in the sort of creative space. So a lot of like in like marketers and stuff like that, because their CVs usually look a little bit more.
Ollie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
so they often put a picture on. It doesn't worry me if there's a picture on the CV or not. Often, once they get formatted, the CV pictures might get removed anyway. And because there's a lot of organizations out there, they don't want to see a picture or a name or anything, because they have to go through might have to go through their portals when uploading the information, and they don't want to know the,
They can't know, I
name.
suppose. Yeah.
No, no. So they don't want anything which is going to be biased to their hiring sort of decision. So more often than not, there's a picture before I send it to a client, it's removed off there anyway, which is a bit of a strange one because they just go on your LinkedIn and check you out anyway.
Of course they do. That's all I've ever done. The first thing that I do if you were to send me over 5 CVs to review now, the first thing I'll do is LinkedIn, and if I can't find them on LinkedIn, that's worrying anyway. But then I'll do a quick Google search. Like, we all do it. Let's not pretend we don't, sort of thing. So that's the first thing you do.
Part of your
Yeah.
shop
So of
window, isn't it? It
course it
is,
is.
and
Of
they want to
course it
see
is.
how you're. They'll look into things. Actually, have you got any recommendations on your LinkedIn? Does everything match up again, your CV to your LinkedIn? And what are you posting and commenting? If you do post and comment, people will check.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. I mean, God, that's yeah. Imagine when people see me, they're like, "Oh, this guy never shuts up. This guy never shuts up." But so AI. Then let's do it a bit around AI. How much are people using AI now to apply, look, and do the whole work for them? Are you seeing a difference now? Can you spot the AI CVs and that sort of thing?
AI is getting better and better. Typically, though, you can more often than not figure out if someone's used AI. But as long as the information is accurate, I don't mind, because let's be honest, everyone uses AI. Yeah, everyone in the workforce, they use AI on their day-to-day basis, don't they? I use AI all the time, but as
Every
long as
day.
it's
Yep.
used as a tool rather than letting it just do your job for you, so they use it to help sort of format the CV. Fine with if it's like to try rearrange a little bit of wording, look for different sort of samples. As long as it's still accurate, then yeah, I'm fine with it. As long as then you don't lose the personal approach, then it's fine. Yeah, AI is getting used more and more in recruitment.
Yeah, my thought was, I was thinking silly. I think like people are applying for a job by AI, writing their CVs via AI. The recruiters are then using AI to check the CVs, and no one's actually speaking to anyone. I guess I could write the best CV, but I guess you pick the phone up to someone, and you could probably tell within seconds if what they say on their CV and what they're actually able to do is real, because when you start talking to them, well, tell me a little bit about that role. I imagine people can unravel quite quickly in that space. And that's just something you can't beat with AI, is it? That's just that human conversation. It's just
Personal approach. Yeah, 100%. I've been doing this for a while now, and I've got quite a large network. So often, before roles come through, I'll try ideally fill that role before I need to advertise it, before I need to do anything. So I've got a list of names like in my head. Uh, I can kind of just tap into. Someone came to me the other day saying they were looking for a program manager to do X, Y, and Z. I was cooking my breakfast at the time. I was like, I know we can do this.
you've got your mental list of
Got
yeah,
you mentioned.
yeah.
I'll sell it to market, but often I'll just kind of try to fill straight away. AI can't do that. If you can do a search, it'll find you CVs, but they don't know the actual person and what their wants, desires are. Actually, AI found a CV for me the other day. CV looked incredible, so I had a chat with this individual, and then it did not stack up at all. Truth be told, it was you could hear the person on the phone asking someone else to answer the questions as if I was on
No,
speakerphone. And
really,
I thought it was for a developer position. And I thought, what
no.
is going on here? So whether it's someone trying to take on a second gig or something like that, or try to get their wife into work I don't know, but you could just, yeah,
Yeah, I would
AI
have
and
I would
CV.
have anxiety that I would just I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with that. Let's be honest. We've all created our version of who we are. We've got our tales to tell. But if they're not consistent, if they're not the same and everything, then you're just going to get caught out and you're just going to get found out, aren't you? And it's not good for you and it's not good for them. And all that's going to happen is that it's just going to set everyone back and it's not ideal. What would you say to someone today in the digital space who's looking for a role? Is there anything you would sort of say, go and do this? I'm thinking you're going to say maybe go and tidy up your LinkedIn and your CV and stuff, but there are other tips and different bits.
Yeah, definitely tidy up your shop window, if you like, your LinkedIn profile. But a big part of it is, I'm a bit of a hypocrite saying this because I'm terrible at posting on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time.
You're on there. I see you on there a bit more.
Every now and then, yeah, I do try to put some stuff out. And I need to get better at it. But if you're actively looking for work, be
Yeah,
visible. So try
yeah,
be consistent with that, uh, and then be proactive as well. So as I said, a lot of the when a requirement comes through, because I've been doing this for a long time, I don't necessarily always need to go out and advertise a role or you know, source. More often than not, I will, because I'm building that sort of network again. But if I can fill a position, straight off the bat, then it's better for me. And the only way I'm doing that is through the network that I've built. So if you're looking for work in like the digital and tech space, you've got to build your relationships, your network as well with recruiters, so that if a role comes through, I could be like, yeah, I spoke to someone the other day who can do X, Y, and Z. So get on the radar. Don't just rely on submitting CVs, to roles. Get yourself known. Stay in regular contact um, with the individual then. And then if you're applying for a job, follow it up. Let them know why you're good for it. I actually saw a good post the other day, someone put up saying they were hiring for a sales rep, and they
yeah.
hired the person who actually applied for the role and then just gave them a call and sold themselves into that role over the phone. And that
They
is
sailed. They did
perfect.
sales.
And you're proving it straight away around why you can do it. And you're going to stand out so much more. If a company's hiring directly, one of the biggest values that I can add to a company is saving you time. Because a company can, they've got hundreds of applicants. They don't want to go through hundreds of CVs and then all the initial conversations and then all the interviews and all that sort of process. I can come in, I can take all that off, and then you just maybe a handful of CVs that are relevant for that role. But if a client isn't using an agency or anything like that, and they want to handle everything directly, then why don't you try to help them by cutting out all that process by actually contacting them directly and saying, this is why I'm good for your role. Be
Yeah.
proactive, get yourself known to clients and recruiters, and don't just rely on sending your CV into a job.
It's not massively dissimilar to what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that if, like I'm sure every father told their son to put on a good shirt and take your CV round to get your first job and stuff. It's not dissimilar. It's pick up the phone, have a conversation with people, get yourself known and get yourself in front of people. And again, it's something that digital just can't do, is it? Like picking up the phone call and being at the top of someone's mind. Because when they got, say, 300 CVs come in, I'm assuming really good people get lost in the mix in that as well. They've got to, because you're going right. Well, I need to fill this role. My responsibility to the supplier here is to get someone in the next 2 days because they've got a deadline. You can't sit and read through CVs. If a good one comes in, you're going to take that one. But that doesn't mean that number 78 wasn't better. But what can you do, right? You've only got so much time and resources.
Exactly. Yeah, and it does almost become a bit of a race at that point because we're busy. Do you know what I mean? So it's tough finding the balance, I suppose, of when you got that, going through all the sort of the CVs and profiles and everything like that. And that's why often I don't advertise every role, because if I put a role up, so much of my time is going through all those
Admin then.
CVs and stuff. Where if I know my network quickly, I can just I can be more efficient. And obviously, there's times that I got to put the role out if I can't fill the role from my direct network,
Yeah,
and
no, of course.
that's different. But yes, I would recommend people building relationships if they are,
And would you
transferring to
would
you.
you suggest someone on LinkedIn goes out and says, I'm looking for work? Because sometimes that, especially if you're professional, that sometimes feels, I don't know, like, well, is that a nice, do you know what I mean? It's a weird thing to go, oh, I'm looking, because now all of a sudden you look desperate somewhat. Is there a balance there? What thoughts on that?
Again, I got nothing against it.
Mm,
You got to look after
mm,
oneself sort of thing. If
yeah.
you're looking for work and it's going to help you by actually letting your
Mm,
network of, you might have 5,000
mm,
people on LinkedIn, shouting out to all of them that you're open to work again, you got to look after yourself, haven't you? You got to let your,
yeah. You, you,
your family come first and so forth. So you got to put pride aside a little bit. Because otherwise, how do people know? Quite often, if I see someone shout that they're looking for work, I'll quickly click on their profile, have a look through, were they relevant for my industry and what I recruit into? If they are, I'll send them a connection request and I'll reach out and say, should we have a chat? See if I can, if I can help you, um, whether it's for now or, you know,
yeah.
in the future. So
So
I,
people
it
just got to
doesn't bother me.
get over it a little bit, maybe, but put yourself out there. It's an odd one. I've discussed it so many times with different people and said, what would you do? And I'll be honest, most people say I wouldn't put it out there because it feels like it's sort of, you do you, right? A lot of people wouldn't witter on the internet like I do all the time. So you got to just do you and just, say, like you say, look after number one. Is there any misunderstandings or sort of comprehensions of what a recruiter does? Do people expect certain things from you that you're like, it's not our world?
Sometimes, yeah, it doesn't happen sort of too often. I think most people, especially in the area that I recruit into, knows what a recruiter does, and so it doesn't happen all too often. I do feel that sometimes some candidates put too much faith in one recruiter, and so I'll tell I can't headhunt for every single person that's in my network. Where possible, I will. If I know someone's good, I've placed them before, I've known them for a long time, I've got references on them, whatever it might be, I will reach out to my nearest and dearest and be like, this person's available, and this is why you should have a chat with them. I can't do that for every single person. So, my job is on the client side a lot of it. Do you know what I mean? They've got the need, and I've got to go out and fill their need. Where I can, I will help then the candidate network. If I think actually you're going to be a really good fit for X, Y, and Z, then I'll make the introductions and see if something comes of it. But I can't headhunt for every single person I speak to, because otherwise my job would just be spamming candidates all over the place, and that just wouldn't work.
And then you don't look credible either then at that point, do you? I guess. And I guess it's hard if you're an extrovert. I'd probably fall into that camp. It's easy because I'll phone you, and if you haven't got anything, I'll phone a few other people and do stuff. But if you're an introvert, and in the tech space, there's a fair few introverts in tech space. That must be quite hard. Going, well, if you can't help me, I'm not sure what to do. So I can see how people almost feel quite reliant on you and that, and that must be quite hard when they're saying, well, you haven't found me a job, and you're like, there's no jobs out there. I mean, I'll find you a job when there's one to find. So those things are quite hard.
And we're limited as well as recruiters. I've only got my network's it's only 8 big sort of thing. I'm
Yeah,
not connected to every single company across the UK, and there's a lot of them out there that I won't work with and will never work with. I'd love to, but
yeah,
I'm not going to go get be able to go sign up a Lloyd's Bank as a agency of one at the moment. Do you know what I mean? So it's
of course, yeah,
yeah, but then there's agencies out there that are fully integrated with clients. They got their RPO models set up actually on site as their internal partners. You might be an absolute excellent fit for that organization. I'm not going to get you in there for love and no money. Do help out as much as I can. So with my network, if I know someone's very good and I see another recruiter post a job that I haven't got on, if I think there's a good fit for them, I'll forward it on and I'll send it over to them.
nice,
Just be
yeah.
like, take a look, because
There's one here, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's a
because they're
nice thing.
recruiting
That's a
for it, and
nice
it's
thing to
just, what I mean, it helps them out. I've known them for, for a long, long
do. Yeah.
time. If something comes of it for them, great. If not, it shows they're still in the sort of forefront of my mind. I just might not actually have anything for them at this time. But
I
then
think
it's things around about. What comes around goes around, doesn't it?
it's so nice that you do that because I think that's rare. I think that sort of personal touch is rare, and the fact that you do that, and I think I think you have mentioned to me before, like have a look over here, and that is just so just so nice. A lot of recruiters don't do that, so recruiters, listen in, be nice, be kind. We're going to dip into AI. I had a segment on AI, but I think we sort of covered a lot of stuff. But I'll just sort of run through some of the ones that I've got on here. We talked about Chat GPT. Do you use any? What tools do you use just in your sort of personal life and different things? How do you find AI has impacted your day-to-day life?
I use it a lot. Chat GPT is used all the time from a work life and a personal life. Do you know what I mean? It's just there's something you got to answer the
Absolutely.
questions to me sometimes from like a work life, even just down to like if terms and conditions with a client come through, I
Yes.
might review them all, but I'm not a lawyer or anything like that.
No.
So I'll review them. I'm like, okay, I'm quite happy with that. Maybe I've made a note of a few clauses. I might then put it through ChatGPT, and a lot of it is on your prompts, isn't it? So then I'll ask it, to review said contract, review it from like a recruiter aspect, from the client aspect, list any sort of, flaws or any concerns that I need to be wary of, suggest, actually where could we improve and tweak things. And to be honest, it just saves me so much time.
It can always be infinitely more accurate than you can ever be, unless you are a trained lawyer. Are you aware of prompting the prompt? As this, because people's AI have different levels, and I thought I was quite clued up on this until I spoke to Morton last week, and he said essentially, no, you're doing it all wrong. What you need to do is, rather than put let's say your instance, put a contract in and say, review this for me. What you need to do is say, I want you to give me a perfect prompt for ChatGPT to review this document because I want to find the bits in. Then ChatGPT will create you a prompt and then use that prompt to do your thing. You can
That's
thank me
clever, isn't
later.
it?
You can thank me later. Honestly, he told me last week and my mind just blew. And I was like, oh my God, I've been using the internet wrong all of these years.
So you're going to use AI to use AI now.
Get AI to write you the prompt to then prompt ChatGPT or whatever. Yeah, honestly, there you go.
It all
Game
comes
changer.
down
You
to
can have
prompts, though,
that one.
doesn't it? It is all with the
It's
prompt.
all prompts. It's all prompts, and with agents on ChatGPT now as well, where you can say the other one as well, and it's just a little thing. Is say take your time, tell it to take its time, and if you do that, it will take maybe 4 or 5 minutes to come back with an answer, but actually it means it will think a bit harder. Who knew, right? It's like telling my child doing tutoring for his 11 plus at the moment, and I keep saying, take your time. He pays no attention, and then he just scribbles and puts his pen down in a bad mood. But it's all fine. Do you think recruiting will? I think I know the answer, but do you think recruiting will ever just become automated and it's just a tool, or do you think you're always going to need people? I think I know what your answer will be, but where do you see recruitment in 10 years' time?
I think I'm always going to say you're going to need people. The AI is a tool to be there. I think it will make companies a lot leaner in terms of kind of like how they operate. And it's already making a lot of recruitment agencies leaner because you can work more efficiently, you can work quicker, maybe you can have a bit of a bigger workload on with certain jobs and stuff like that because your admin time has been saved and how fast you can actually produce certain documents and this sort of stuff. But I think the human element will always be there. There's some companies out there at the moment trying to build AI platforms to completely get rid of the agency. And I think they'll always have a place. I think they will get better. But all they're going to really do is source candidates based on their CVs and their LinkedIn profiles, not actually the person behind that, because they can't do that unless it's, there's some out there which is going to have some sort of like chats and stuff with them and they'll start doing some of that initial engagement. But I think there's a limit for how much AI will do in the recruitment industry before it loses that complete human and personal sort of touch, which is needed.
Saw one the other day. Yeah, I put CV into a role the other day and it came back, and I had a link to a chat bot to say, to ask me some questions about my CV for the role. And at this point, I'd sort of lost interest because I like the person. I like to speak to Dave or whoever it is, Dan, and on the phone and have the. So I thought, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get AI because you're a chatbot, you're an AI chatbot. So I'm going to give you the answers that you're giving me from AI. and it had a lovely conversation and told me it was brilliant stuff. Never heard anything. It was blah, blah. To me, that is everything that's wrong. That is the worst thing. It's qualified. It's using AI to qualify me based on AI answers that I fed it out of a sort of a training thing. Never heard anything back. The response from the AI things were, yeah, this is brilliant. You sound like a perfect fit. So yeah, whereas if someone just would have phoned you up or you would have phoned someone, you could have had a normal chat and stuff. So I think there's a long time, and I think all AI can really do in your space is take away the noise. It can do some light filtering and stuff, but unless you pick the phone up to me, and I could be a complete moron, and you just go, yeah, this guy's, well, not dissimilar to what you said, right? Perfect CV, you pick someone up and they're phoning it in because their mate or partner's telling them the answers and stuff. And
Yeah.
if you did all of that, imagine doing all that with online, and then me turning up for an interview, which maybe is done on with AI as well, and I completely balls it up. You've lost all credibility as a recruiter at that point, haven't you? So
It's little things as well. You know, if I call you and tell you about an opportunity, I'd like to think I know actually that client's inside now. I know their
yeah,
culture, I know their team. I'm going to know then if you're going to kind of fit in with them and who they are and what they're looking for, not just the job description on paper and then your CV and do these two match. It's everything else behind it that needs to kind of marry up as well, which AI is not there, but it's going to come very useful in the recruitment industry. Like the CRM system that I use has AI integrated into it to help with, whether it's sourcing through the database for potential candidates based on all like the notes and stuff that I'll write against people. So it's all it's all I put in there as well. There's tools out there as well which will integrate then, like the CRM systems integrate with your emails. So if I'm getting an email from someone, it'll then actually take that information and it'll turn it into tasks for me around what's going to
it's
be said that I'm going to do.
it's that, isn't it? It becomes your perfect personal assistant, doesn't it? It takes away all the busy work that you would do normally and you would have to do, and it creates all that. It can create those tasks for you. I say the note taking is fantastic. I use chat for note taking all the time because I can make messy notes and then I can get to the end and I say, just tidy this up for me. And the way that it can do that, and the integration, like you say, with email and different things, being able to just say, look for these keywords because you put notes against all of that sort of stuff. Otherwise, before, I imagine you had a pad 10 years ago when you started from Jaguar Land Rover. I imagine how manual those processes were. It was you probably still had computer systems, but I bet it was load up a CV, look at the CV, look for keywords, control F, try and find some things. Whereas now, press one button and it searches a thousand of your records.
Essentially that it just saves time. It saves a lot of the admin work. And I think it's going to get better and better in that space. And I think that's why it's going to allow teams to work a lot leaner in not just in in the recruitment world. I think in all industries, which we're finding. I think a lot of people a lot leaner just because you don't need as many bodies if it's going to save so much time on admin and all the little tasks.
Yeah. Definitely. I always ask everyone this, what's the biggest detour or setback that's actually changed your career and, it's either been a positive or a learning experience?
Biggest detour. I wouldn't say a setback as such, but as a detour, almost like a bit of a sidestep, would probably be the change of career that I took going into recruitment in the first place.
Perfect. Yeah.
Because I mean, way back when, I'm happy to share this, but when I was in car sales, I was I was doing all right. I had a nice company car. I was comfortable. I was pretty good at it. And then I took a role in recruitment on a 18,000 base. And it just, it threw me massively. So I took a huge risk
Of course.
to
Yeah.
kind of go into it to get a little bit, to get my weekends back to have with my son. And I saw the opportunity there and what recruitment could be. And yeah, it paid off. It paid off massively, and it's obviously shaped my career to where I am now. But yeah, it was a big risk at the time, a big detour, I suppose, to actually shift
Yeah.
completely what I'm doing.
Brave to go from, yeah, like you say, having a very, I'm sure they paid well, good commissions, a nice lifestyle, to then take that risk, take the smaller salary, but obviously because you knew in your heart somewhere, you knew that there was a this was a longer term goal and you would go somewhere. So that's really good. And I think people need to hear that more, because I think people always feel like they need to go that way, but sometimes you need to take a little bit of a zigzag to get to where you are. So it's a lovely detour story. I like that one. If you could go back to your younger self and give yourself one bit of either career advice, any tidbits you'd give them?
Maybe a couple things. Maybe tell them, like, people care less about you than you think they do. Because it took me a while to learn that, of going into, you know, different organizations and trying to sell myself and what I'm doing, just picking up the phone, and you get kind of in your way, you overthink everything, when actually people are so consumed in their own lives that you stop panicking. And the
Absolutely.
other side of it would be your biggest strength is your network and the relationships that you build. The biggest accounts that I've opened have been through relationships, of where people in my network have gone and got a job elsewhere that I've known for years and years, and they might have gone and picked up a head of change somewhere or something like that. And then they call me and say, right, I've got a new role. I need to build a team. How are we going to work together? And that's because I spent, years prior, I'm actually
Building.
nurturing that relationship and helping them out. I might have found them, a couple roles along the way, and we work together, and then, it comes back around and they've helped me.
I was trying to explain this to my daughter the other day, and I don't think I articulated it very well, and then I sort of had to step back. But what I was trying to say is that no one cares. I mean, I guess I sound like the worst parent in the world here. I said no one cares about you. It's not that you've got loads of people that care about you. Go and do you. Go and have fun. No one's sat there watching your every move and thinking of all the things. Put yourself out there and just
Yeah.
do it. People are so focused on me, and my world, and maybe 5% of their life they actually have a glance over at you. So just go and do you. Build nice relationships, because they will come back and do it. So yeah, I fully subscribe to what you said there. That's absolutely bang on. It's been really great today. I mean, it's just nice to have a chat with nice people anyway. But I think there's some really good advice there for people. What I'll do is I'll cut up some of those bits of advice and make sure that we get them shared out, because I think these are the questions that everyone wants to ask, and they don't, because they don't know how to reach out. So I think it's really nice that you've been able to do that today. What's next for you? Where can people reach out to you, and how should people reach out to you? If I was out there now looking for work, do you want a phone call? Do you want an email? How do people reach out to you?
Yeah, you get me on the phone, get me over LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. It's always open, because it's probably one of my biggest tools. Yeah, just reach out. I'm always open for a conversation, and hopefully I've been able to provide something useful to your
Definitely.
audience. And in terms of kind of what's next for, I think you said what's next for me. I'm still a new business, so it's still in that sort of early stage, growth periods. You're looking to, I'm got no ambition to go build the next Hayes or anything like that. I want a nice agency that just runs how I want things to run, honest, transparent. Yeah, a handful of some really close partners that we work with, and we just kind of grow with them. So for me, it's just that sort of like nice, steady, organic growth period at the moment.
Beautiful. Lovely. This has been absolutely fascinating. Well, yeah, what I'll say to anyone who's watching this is, it's go back, look at some of the tips, get those things in order. Don't go sending AI CVs out to Dan there. Listen to those tips, get them in, send them in, and yeah, help build those networks. Is there anything else you want to cover? I'm really happy with that. I think we're in a really good space. Is there anything else that you needed to say, or you wanted to pull out from bits that you might have had in your thoughts?
No, I think we kind of covered everything there. If anyone wants to reach out and actually discuss any tips or anything, or any questions in more detail, I'm more than happy to arrange that and jump on a call.
I'll put all of your emails and your LinkedIn and everything in and obviously the website in the show notes. And yeah, once again, thank you so much. This has been absolutely fascinating. Thanks today.
Yeah,
cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.